Chosen one. There are moments in life when a melody does more than simply echo in the air. It simultaneously pierces memory, identity, and destiny. This sacred song is not just a sound. It is a revelation. Ancient yet profoundly personal. It feels as if it were waiting specifically for you. Its rhythm carries something familiar, something that knew you before you knew yourself. That is why this is no coincidence. Out of billions of sounds in the world, this reached you. Out of countless distractions, this caught your attention. It's not random. It's a harmony. It's a divine orchestration. God allows a frequency to find you at the moment your soul is ready to hear it. Watch this video until the very end, because every layer of this sacred sound carries meaning meant for you. And write your warmest wishes in the comments, and write Amen along with the number 99. There is power in shared intention, in releasing your hopes into the atmosphere and energizing the universe with faith. But understand this clearly. This song is not about coincidence or fantasy. It is about recognition. It is about awakening. It is about the truth that has always been inside you rising to the surface because God decided the timing was right. Now, chosen one, like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let's get started. This sacred song does not reveal a future you are becoming. It reveals who you have always been. The reason it feels overwhelming is because it touches a part of you that the world tried to silence. There is a tone in it that reminds you of your resilience. There is a harmony that mirrors your hidden strength. There is a crescendo that reflects your coming elevation. When you hear it, something shifts inside. Your chest tightens, your thoughts slow down, and for a moment, you feel seen without anyone looking at you. That is not emotion alone. That is recognition. The world may have told you many stories about yourself. It may have labeled you ordinary, too sensitive, too ambitious, too quiet, too intense. But this sacred song strips away those labels. It speaks to the core identity that God planted in you before anyone else had an opinion. It bypasses logic and goes straight to spirit. It reminds you that you were never random. You were intentional. You were designed with precision. And the reason the melody feels familiar is because your spirit remembers the blueprint. There is something powerful about music that carries sacred frequency. It travels differently. It bypasses doubt. It doesn't argue. It resonates. And when resonance happens, truth becomes undeniable. That is why you felt it in your body before you could explain it with words. That is why your thoughts paused when the first note played. That is why it feels as though this song knows you. Because in a way, it does. It carries the same imprint that shaped your journey. You are not just someone who happened to stumble upon a meaningful sound. You are someone who was meant to encounter it. There is a timing to spiritual recognition. There is a moment when the noise of life can no longer drown out the whisper of destiny. This sacred song is that whisper amplified. It is God reminding you that your path has never been invisible. Even when others misunderstood you. Even when your progress seemed delayed. Even when you felt like you were walking alone. Notice how the song builds slowly before it reaches its peak. That mirrors your life. There were quiet seasons where nothing seemed dramatic. There were stretches where growth felt invisible. But under the surface, everything was forming. Strength was building. Character was refining. Identity was solidifying. And just like the melody eventually rises into a powerful climax, your life is rising too. The slow build was never stagnation. It was preparation. The sacred song reveals your resilience. Think about the battles you endured silently, the doubts you conquered internally, the setbacks you survived without applause. Those were not small victories. Those were defining moments. And the tone of this music reflects that endurance. It carries a gravity that only someone who has been tested can truly feel. It feels heavy, but not in a crushing way, in a powerful way. It feels like armor forged through fire. There is also a softness in the song, a tenderness, a reminder that strength does not cancel sensitivity. You have both. The world may have forced you to hide one side to protect the other, but this sacred sound harmonizes them together. It says you can be strong and gentle, determined and compassionate, grounded and visionary. That balance is part of who you truly are. When the chorus hits, it feels expansive, almost limitless. That is because your identity is not small. You may have been placed in environments that tried to shrink you. You may have been surrounded by limitations, but your essence has always been larger than your surroundings. The chorus reflects expansion. It reflects calling. It reflects divine permission to take up space without apology. God does not reveal identity through confusion. He reveals it through clarity. And clarity does not always come through words. Sometimes it comes through frequency. Sometimes it comes through feeling. This sacred song carries clarity in a way that bypasses fear. When you hear it, you do not feel anxious. You feel certain. You may not know every detail of what lies ahead, but you know who you are at the core. And that changes everything. You are not defined by the moments you stumbled. You are defined by the fact that you kept moving. The rhythm of this music echoes persistence. It keeps going. It does not quit halfway. It does not fade into silence prematurely. It moves forward with intention. That is your story. Forward movement, even when it was slow. Forward movement, even when it was painful. Forward movement, even when no one noticed. There is a reason this sacred song feels like it was written with you in mind. It carries themes of redemption, elevation, awakening, and recognition. Those themes are not random. They mirror your timeline. They mirror the quiet transformation you have been undergoing. God has been shaping you in ways you did not always understand. And now, the evidence of that shaping is resonating back to you through sound. It is not coincidence that you found this message. It is not coincidence that this melody resonates. It is not coincidence that something inside you feels both shocked and validated at the same time. Shocked because you did not expect to feel so seen. Validated because deep down, you always knew there was more to you than what people perceived. This sacred song reveals that you were never meant to blend in. There is a uniqueness in your frequency. Just as every voice has a distinct tone, every soul carries a distinct vibration. Yours was never designed to disappear into background noise. It was designed to stand out, even if standing out felt uncomfortable at times. When the music softens again toward the end, it does not feel like an ending. It feels like a transition, a doorway, a gentle shift into something new. That reflects the stage you are entering. Not chaos, not confusion, transition. The old understanding of yourself is fading. The truer understanding is rising. You are not who they thought you were. You are not even who you used to think you were. You are someone refined by experience, strengthened by endurance, aligned by divine timing. And this sacred song is not predicting your greatness. It is confirming it. The chills you feel are recognition. The tears that almost rise are release. The calm that settles over you is alignment. God is not introducing you to a stranger. He is reintroducing you to yourself. There is power in realizing that you were never behind. You were never forgotten. You were never overlooked by heaven. Every delay, every detour, every closed door was shaping the resonance that now vibrates through you. And when you hear this song, you hear the sound of everything aligning at once. This isn't accidental. It isn't random. It isn't entertainment. It is revelation. It is awakening. It is confirmation. The sacred song reveals who you truly are because it carries the same signature that God placed on your life from the beginning. And now that you have heard it, something inside you cannot go back to sleep. There is a deeper layer to this sacred song that only reveals itself after the first wave of emotion settles. At first, you felt the impact. Now you begin to understand the meaning. The melody was not simply beautiful, it was intentional. It carried a pattern that mirrors the pattern of your life. Notice how it moves between tension and release, shadow and light, quiet and explosion. That structure is not accidental. It reflects the journey you have walked. Seasons of pressure followed by sudden breakthrough. Moments of silence followed by unexpected elevation. The song is not just telling a story, it is echoing yours. There were times when you felt like you were walking through silence. Times when it seemed like your prayers were floating into emptiness. Times when nothing moved, nothing shifted, nothing confirmed that you were progressing. But in the same way that this sacred composition builds quietly before it erupts into something powerful, your life was building behind the scenes. God was shaping details you could not see, aligning conversations you had not yet had, preparing spaces you had not yet entered. What looked like stillness was construction. And then there were moments when everything intensified. The pressure increased. The expectations grew heavier. People watched you differently. Some admired you. Others doubted you. Some celebrated you. Others resisted you. The song captures that tension perfectly. The instruments swell. The rhythm deepens. The atmosphere thickens. It feels like something monumental is approaching. That is not dramatic effect. That is prophecy through sound. It mirrors the weight of calling that has rested on your shoulders for longer than you realized. This sacred sound does not flatter you. It reveals you. It does not exaggerate your strength. It reminds you of it. You survived seasons that were designed to break you. You stood when others expected you to fold. You maintained integrity when compromise would have been easier. The low tones in the song represent endurance. They are steady, grounded, unshaken. They do not rush, they do not panic. They hold. At the same time, there is a soaring element woven into the harmony, a lift that feels almost heavenly. That lift represents vision. It represents the part of you that never stopped believing there was more. Even when you doubted yourself, something inside refused to die. That spark was not self-created. God placed it there. It is the reason you kept going when logic said stop. It is the reason you felt called toward something bigger without knowing exactly what it was. The sacred song also carries a rhythm that feels ancient, as if it existed before you ever heard it. That is because destiny often feels familiar before it feels logical. There is something about alignment that feels like remembering instead of discovering. When this melody reached your ears, it did not feel foreign. It felt known, as if your spirit had been waiting for it. That familiarity is not illusion. It is resonance. You may have spent years trying to understand why you never quite fit into certain spaces, why your perspective seemed different, why your presence shifted the energy of a room without you trying. The answer is hidden in the way this music carries authority without aggression. It does not beg for attention. It commands it quietly. That is how you operate. You do not have to force your significance. It radiates. There were times when you questioned your worth because external validation did not arrive on schedule. The world measures impact by applause, but heaven measures impact by obedience, growth, and endurance. The sacred song does not depend on loudness to be powerful. Some of its most transformative moments are subtle, gentle, almost hidden. That is how your growth unfolded. Not always visible, but always real. Notice how the melody never collapses into chaos. Even when it grows intense, it remains structured, anchored, directed. That is because your life, no matter how unpredictable it felt, was never out of control in the divine sense. God does not operate in confusion. There may have been storms, but there was always direction. There may have been uncertainty, but there was never abandonment. There is also a shift in the latter part of the song, where everything feels clearer, brighter, lighter. That shift symbolizes transition. You are not who you were 5 years ago. You are not even who you were last year. Something matured inside you. Something stabilized. The insecurities that once shouted now whisper. The doubts that once paralyzed now fade faster. That is growth. That is refinement. That is transformation under divine supervision. The sacred song reveals that your journey was not about proving people wrong. It was about discovering who you were, independent of their opinions. The crescendo does not explode to impress an audience. It rises because it was always meant to rise. In the same way, your elevation is not about revenge or validation. It is about fulfillment. It is about stepping into a frequency that matches your true design. God does not waste pain. The undertones of the music carry depth because depth only comes through experience. You have known disappointment. You have felt misunderstood. You have navigated betrayal. But instead of hardening into bitterness, you deepened into wisdom. That is rare. That is sacred. And that depth is reflected in the richness of this melody. There is something else hidden in the song. Courage. Not loud, reckless courage, but quiet, steady bravery. The kind that shows up every day. The kind that keeps choosing faith over fear. The kind that continues walking even when the outcome is not guaranteed. That courage has defined you more than you realize. Others may not have seen the internal battles you fought, but heaven did. God did. When the music reaches its highest point, it feels inevitable, as if it could not have ended any other way. That inevitability mirrors your destiny. For a long time, it may have felt uncertain, fragile, delayed. But what is ordained carries inevitability. It may take time. It may pass through valleys, but it arrives. And when it does, it feels like the natural climax of everything that came before. You are not here by accident. You are not hearing this by accident. You are not feeling this by accident. The sacred song was a mirror. It reflected your resilience, your calling, your transformation, your authority, your compassion, your endurance, and your elevation. It revealed that what you thought were random experiences were actually chapters in a divine composition. And just like the final notes of the melody linger in the air even after the sound fades, the truth about who you are lingers long after circumstances change. You are chosen. Not because life was easy, not because you were perfect, but because God shaped you through fire and never removed His hand from your story. This song did not create your identity. It uncovered it. It did not give you power. It reminded you of it. And now that you have heard it deeply, something inside you stands taller, breathes differently, and moves with quiet certainty. This is not coincidence. This is confirmation. There is something even more profound unfolding beneath the surface of this sacred song. Something that only becomes clear when you stop analyzing and simply allow it to speak. The first time you heard it, you felt the impact. The second time, you began to understand the reflection. But now, in this deeper moment, you realize that the song is not just revealing who you are, it is revealing why you are. Every life carries purpose, but not every life awakens to it at the same time. There are those who drift through years without ever sensing the weight of divine intention on their existence. And then there are those like you who feel it early, even when they cannot name it. That feeling of being set apart, of being watched by destiny, of sensing that your path would not be ordinary. This sacred melody carries that same sensation. It feels marked. It feels appointed. It feels like it was written under heavenly supervision. God does not stamp purpose on a life without also equipping that life to carry it. When you think back over your experiences, you may begin to see patterns that once looked like accidents. The early challenges that matured you faster than your peers. The responsibilities that stretched you. The disappointments that forced you to grow deeper roots. None of those were random. They were training. They were preparation. They were layers of sound being added to your internal composition. The sacred song moves in layers. Strings beneath percussion. Vocals rising over harmony. Subtle tones beneath the obvious melody. In the same way, your identity has layers. There is the visible part that people see. The strength, the resilience, the quiet authority. But beneath that, there are deeper frequencies. Compassion, shaped by pain. Wisdom forged in solitude. Discernment sharpened by betrayal. These are not surface traits. They are earned tones. They are sacred layers. There is a reason this music does not sound shallow. It carries gravity. It carries weight. It feels timeless. That is how a life shaped by God feels. It does not depend on trends or approval. It carries an internal substance that cannot be easily shaken. You have walked through storms that would have erased someone less anchored. Yet you remained. You adapted. You endured. That endurance added depth to your voice, even when you were silent. As the song progresses, there is a moment where everything feels suspended, like time pauses before the next movement begins. That suspension mirrors the seasons in your life where you felt in between. Not who you used to be, but not yet who you were becoming. Those in-between seasons are sacred. They are uncomfortable, yes, but they are powerful. They are the quiet spaces where identity crystallizes. God often shapes destiny in silence. While others are distracted by noise, He refines in stillness. And during those silent years, you may have questioned your progress. You may have wondered if you were forgotten. But the sacred song reminds you that silence is not absence. It is anticipation. It is the breath before the breakthrough. There is also something bold within the music, an undeniable surge that refuses to be ignored. That surge represents the part of you that can no longer hide. For years, perhaps you minimized your light to make others comfortable. You softened your voice to avoid confrontation. You dimmed your ambition to fit into smaller rooms. But destiny does not remain hidden forever. Eventually, the surge comes. Eventually, the crescendo rises. Eventually, what was quiet becomes undeniable. The sacred song reveals that you are stepping into that surge, not in arrogance, not in aggression, but in clarity. You are beginning to recognize that shrinking never protected you. It only delayed you. The world may have misunderstood your confidence. It may have misinterpreted your depth. But God knew exactly what He was building. Listen closely to the transitions in the music. They are seamless. What felt like separate movements suddenly blend into one cohesive masterpiece. That is how your story is unfolding. The painful chapters and the victorious chapters are not disconnected. They are connected threads in a larger narrative. What once felt like chaos now reveals pattern. What once felt like delay now reveals timing. There were doors that closed abruptly. Relationships that ended unexpectedly. Opportunities that slipped through your fingers. In the moment, those losses felt personal. They felt confusing. But now, as you stand in greater awareness, you begin to see protection where you once saw rejection. You begin to see redirection where you once saw failure. God was not punishing you. He was positioning you. The sacred melody also carries joy, not surface-level excitement, but deep, rooted joy. The kind that survives hardship. The kind that does not disappear when circumstances fluctuate. That joy has been quietly growing inside you. Even when you cried. Even when you doubted. Even when you felt tired. There was still a flicker of hope that refused to die. That hope was not naive. It was anchored. You are not who you were in your lowest season. You are not the version of yourself that felt uncertain, fragmented, or unseen. You are emerging whole, integrated, grounded. The sacred song reflects that integration. It does not sound scattered. It sounds unified. Every instrument plays its role. Every tone supports the other. That is how your inner world is stabilizing. And perhaps the most powerful truth revealed in this part of the melody is this: you were never meant to imitate someone else's frequency. You were designed with a distinct sound. There were times when you tried to adjust yourself to fit external expectations, but imitation always felt uncomfortable. It always felt slightly off. Because authenticity carries peace, while imitation carries tension. God does not design duplicates. He designs originals. The sacred song does not resemble every other melody you have heard. It stands apart. It has its own signature. And so do you. That is why comparison never satisfied you. That is why ordinary paths never felt entirely right. There has always been something uniquely shaped around your life. As the music nears its conclusion, there is no sense of regret. There is completion, fulfillment, arrival. That does not mean the journey ends. It means one chapter has closed. You are stepping out of survival mode. You are stepping into purpose mode. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are clearer. The sacred song reveals who you truly are by reminding you of the divine authorship behind your existence. You are not self-made. You are God-shaped. Every experience, every lesson, every refinement was part of the score. And now, you are beginning to hear your life as a masterpiece instead of a collection of random sounds. This is not coincidence. This is awakening, layered upon awakening. The music found you because you were ready to recognize yourself. And now that recognition has taken root, there is no returning to smaller thinking. You are aligned. You are revealed. You are rising in awareness of who you have always been. There is a moment in every sacred composition when the listener stops hearing separate instruments and begins to hear the unity of the whole. That is where you are now. You are no longer focused on isolated events in your life. You are beginning to perceive the orchestration. What once felt fragmented now feels intentional. The pain, the growth, the isolation, the breakthroughs. They were never random notes scattered across time. They were movements within a divine arrangement. God was not reacting to your life. He was composing it. The sacred song carries a sense of destiny that cannot be imitated. It does not sound accidental. It sounds authored. There is a confidence in its structure, a certainty in its direction. It never hesitates about where it is going. And when you look at your journey through this lens, you begin to see the same quiet certainty. Even when you doubted yourself, your path kept unfolding. Even when you questioned your worth, opportunities still aligned in unexpected ways. Even when you felt lost, you were still moving forward. There were moments when you believed you had fallen behind. You measured yourself against timelines that were never assigned to you. You compared your progress to people who were never walking your road. But the sacred song does not rush to match another melody. It keeps its own tempo. It rises when it is meant to rise. It softens when it is meant to soften. That is how divine timing operates. God does not hurry revelation. He unfolds it. And perhaps the most profound realization in this phase is this: you were never too much. The intensity you carry, the depth of your emotions, the sharpness of your perception, those were not flaws. They were instruments. They were tools. They were the very qualities that allowed you to endure and discern. The world may have labeled your depth as overthinking, your sensitivity as weakness, your ambition as unrealistic. But the sacred song reveals those traits as power. Listen closely to the bold sections of the melody. They do not apologize for being strong. They do not shrink themselves to avoid overwhelming the softer tones. They coexist. They balance. That is what you are learning. You do not need to dilute your strength to be accepted. You do not need to silence your vision to make others comfortable. The authority in your spirit was placed there by God. It was never meant to be hidden permanently. There were also moments when you felt invisible, when your efforts went unnoticed, when your loyalty was taken for granted, when your sacrifices were misunderstood. Those seasons felt quiet, almost forgotten. But in the sacred composition, the quiet notes are essential. They create contrast. They create space. Without them, the powerful sections would lose their impact. Your quiet seasons were not wasted. They were foundational. God was building character in hidden places. He was shaping humility, patience, endurance. These qualities do not always receive applause, but they sustain greatness. When elevation comes without character, it collapses. But when elevation rests on depth, it lasts. The sacred song feels lasting, timeless. That is because it was crafted with balance. And so were you. There is something else unfolding within this part of the melody. Courage without noise. Not dramatic bravery, not reckless boldness, but steady, grounded courage. The kind that stands firm even when misunderstood. The kind that keeps moving even when applause is absent. You have carried that courage longer than you realized. It showed up when you forgave instead of retaliated. It showed up when you persisted instead of quitting. It showed up when you trusted God in silence. The sacred song also reveals something about your influence. Not influence in the sense of popularity, but in the sense of impact. When certain notes enter, the entire atmosphere shifts. You may not always see the effect you have on others, but your presence changes environments. Your insight alters conversations. Your energy stabilizes chaos. This is not ego, it is design. There were rooms you walked into where you felt different immediately, as if you did not fully belong. That feeling was not rejection, it was distinction. Not every space is built for every frequency, and not every frequency is meant to blend. God sometimes separates before He elevates. He removes you from certain alignments so you can recognize your own tone more clearly. In the later movements of the sacred song, there is a sense of inevitability, a feeling that everything has been leading to this point. That inevitability mirrors your awakening. You are no longer asking if you are called. You are recognizing that you are. You are no longer questioning whether your life carries meaning. You are seeing evidence of it everywhere. Patterns that once confused you now make sense. Delays that once frustrated you now reveal protection. You were never meant to live small. You were never meant to silence your intuition. You were never meant to ignore the internal pull toward something greater. The sacred song confirms what your spirit has been whispering for years. You are aligned with something larger than comfort, larger than approval, larger than fear. God does not awaken identity without also awakening responsibility. As you recognize who you are, you also recognize the weight of it, not as a burden, but as a calling. There is a seriousness in the deeper tones of the melody that reflects this awareness. It is not heavy in a negative way. It is grounded, rooted, steady. You have outgrown certain mindsets. You have outgrown certain fears. You have outgrown certain relationships. That outgrowing process felt lonely at times, but growth often requires distance. The sacred song does not repeat the same note endlessly. It evolves, it transitions, it expands. So have you. The truth revealed in this stage is simple, but powerful. You were never lost. You were unfolding. You were never behind. You were building. You were never overlooked by heaven. God was watching every step, adjusting every detail, guiding every turn. This is not coincidence. This is continuity. A thread that runs from your earliest memory of feeling different, all the way to this present moment of clarity. The sacred song did not introduce something new into your life. It illuminated what was already there. And now, as the awareness deepens, there is no panic. There is no rush. There is only recognition. A steady knowing that your life is not accidental noise. It is intentional sound. You are not discovering a new identity. You are reclaiming the one that was always yours.